Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Muslim Marriage Podcast, where we talk about healthy relationships from a Muslim lens. I'm Zahra Hassan.
And I'm AJ, and we've been married for 3 years now.
And let's get started.
Let's get started.
And this week's episode is going to be about a question coming from the Muslim Marriage subreddit.
Yes.
Yeah, it's turning into a very valuable resource.
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
So this question is going to be asked by a sister, and it's entitled "Interracial Marriage: Talking about Differences Upsets Me." Okay, all right.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a topic we haven't covered yet.
That does seem like an entitled title.
Okay. So the sister begins. She says, "Salam all. I am a white convert of 7 years, and I will be married in November to a wonderful man whose family origin is from Pakistan. I am having some issues with my potential spouse, however, insofar that he makes jokes at my expense or dismisses me by saying, 'That's just white people stuff,' or 'white people this,' or 'white people that.' Now, I'm no stranger to how our people can be. We are weird, and we have some things that can only be described as normalcies to any ethnicity, but sometimes strange to outsiders. I think it's currently popular to make fun of us, which I don't mind if done with some sort of understanding, compassion, and willingness to accept that not everyone might do whatever it is they're joking about. However, there have been a few times when I felt particularly offended by what he says. I at one point talked to him about some difficult personal things and how therapy helps me. He dismissed it as white people things. The other day, he basically said all white people don't age well and implied that I better keep on top of my game when I get older. But I tried to point out to him that the people he is thinking about when he's thinking about attractive people who are non-white and above 40 are most likely able to afford cosmetic surgeries and expensive skincare, hair care, or have great genetics, which isn't limited to ethnicity, in my opinion, and she's correct. He accused me of not knowing what I'm talking about simply because I'm white, and all of my close friends are non-white, and he knows that. They're regular people. But despite me providing evidence to my points, I feel like he doesn't take me seriously once he plays the white card. I don't get it. I hate it, to be honest, and it feels demeaning, and I'm not sure how to respond. I really respect him, and he is for the most part a smart person, but it's difficult to stand. I need advice." Okay, so this question is a little bit heartbreaking. It sounds like
very heavy stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of negativity there. What are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, regardless of ethnicity or race, the husband or the wife should not be making fun of their partner to anyone.
Yeah, agreed.
Let alone their family.
Yeah.
So right off the bat, that's something that should be stopped, like not even like her saying, "Hey, don't joke about me when it comes to race," but like, "Hey, don't joke about me at all," because the husband is the one that's supposed to defend his wife's honor.
Yeah.
And how is it that the husband is the one that is attacking his wife's honor?
Yeah, that's very sad, subhanAllah. Like protection includes protection from yourself.
Yeah.
Like when we say that different roles have been designated for each gender by our religion, alhamdulillah. And one of the roles for men is that they are al-qawamun. They're the ones who protect and cover.
Yeah.
Right? And part of that protection is protection from yourself.
Yeah.
Right, and that means respecting your wife and being a safe place for her. So yeah, I agree with you. That's very sad. So this is going to again be one of those questions that has two dimensions to how we answer the question, right? So the first dimension is going to be addressing what's going on specifically with this couple, right? And hopefully giving some advice to people who are going through similar situations. And then the second dimension is just going to be addressing interracial marriages in general and some advice for people who are in the talking stage or who are already married for how to approach that, right? So when it comes to advice for the first dimension for this particular couple, what would you tell this sister to do? What should she do?
I mean, it's going to be tough, right? Because he's already put himself in the mind frame of dismissing her whenever she brings something up as, that's just white people stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, which is sad.
Which it is difficult for the white people in this day and age, because they do get that a lot. That's just white people stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And truth be told, it is going to be something that's just difficult for her to. She's going to have to make a stand.
Yeah. No, it's first of all, it should be addressed that racializing anything is always nonsense, right? That has nothing to do with Islam, right? Islam, in our religion, people are judged by the content, by the way their relationship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the relationship to God, and what kind of person that they are. So everything that is whenever people start bringing race into their marriage or any other really context, it's as a Muslim, especially towards other Muslims, to anyone really, but to other Muslims, it's just, that means this individual doesn't really understand their religion, right?
We all have the same father and mother.
Yeah, exactly. So that's, having said that, with advice to this sister specifically, I think that again, we need a little bit more context to be able to gauge the overall health of the marriage, right? In order what steps to take. But let's assume that their marriage is otherwise doing fine, right? And their issue here is that he is disrespecting his wife because of her race. It's more likely he's disrespecting her in other aspects, but let's say that it's just uniquely to this area.
Yeah.
Okay, if this is the only real issue, then the advice for the sister is going to be, what we almost always suggest is, you're going to have a sit-down conversation, a discussion, and communicate, and help him to really understand what your perspective is, and we're going to assume the best of this individual, because when you marry somebody, you assume the best of your spouse and say, okay, they're doing this thing, but not intentionally or maliciously because they want to hurt me, is maybe they just don't have the right information.
Yeah.
Right. I don't want to give an excuse, but let's say this individual, for whatever reason, somehow thinks this is okay, and he really just doesn't understand how this is affecting his wife.
But he's led to think that it's okay because it is the popular joke.
That could be, yes, definitely, that could be a possibility. And you're right, the sister did point out that has been the societal norm, unfortunately. But let's say that it's not malicious intention, he doesn't have the right information. So you're gonna do what you always do, right? Do a little bit of introspection to really try to find a way to articulate how it is that you're feeling and how it is that you're being affected by this. So once you have that information ready, then you go sit down with your spouse in the safe space that the two of you have created, where you have all of these conversations. Right?
Yeah.
And then you start to go through the steps of conflict resolution that we talk about all the time, where you sit down and step one, you validate his point of view, which is going to be hard in this case.
Yeah.
But to validate his point of view, which could be a lot of what she suggested, saying, I understand that it's the societal norm to speak negatively about white people right now.
To be comfortable making these kind of jokes.
Exactly. I understand how that's on multiple different platforms that people are doing that, and it's become okay, and it's part of the culture. I can see that, and I'm sure you're not doing it maliciously.
Yeah.
However, and then you speak about your experience, and you articulate what you've already prepared.
Yeah.
Right. This is the part where you have to do a little bit of work on the back end before you have the conversation. So now you articulate how it is that you feel, and you speak about how it really makes me feel disrespected. Right. It makes me feel like the most important person in the world sees me as less than. Right. And that's very painful for me. And when you're in this part of the conversation, in this step 2, where you're articulating your experience, this is where you use the I statements and the I feel and my experience is, and or I hurt, like this is painful to me because we're speaking from your perspective. And then step 3, where you check in and you say, does that make sense?
Does it make sense?
Yes.
There's an extra step specifically for interracial marriages.
Okay.
That's the third. Step 3 is the last step, right?
No, there's 5.
Okay, go on to the 4th step. I'll add step number 6 afterwards.
Okay. Oh, I have an idea where you're going with that. But step 3 is where you check in and you say, does that make sense? And your spouse will either say yes or no. If they say no, then you ask them, can you elaborate? And then you repeat steps 1 and 2 again until the 2 of you each have an understanding of one another's experience about this issue. Right? So if they say no, actually that's not how that's not what my experience has been. My experience has been such and such. And then you say, okay, I'm understanding that your experience is such and such. Did I get it right? No, I mean this. Oh, okay, you mean this. Did I get it right then? Does that make sense? And they say yes. Okay, then you go back to your step 2 and you say, okay, did what I say make sense? Oh yeah, I understood what you said. Okay, now you're done with step 3, right? So that's the step 3. It's more than just, do you get it? It's really just to make sure that each of you are on the same page with one another's experiences. Yeah?
Yeah.
Now you come to step 4, where you state your need, right? So in this case, it can be something like, what I'm going to need for you is to really, really hear and empathize with me about how much this can be painful.
Yeah.
And we just don't make those jokes anymore. Right? Because those jokes are very painful for me. And then step 5 is the last one, where you again check in to make sure that your partner understood what it is that you're actually asking. Do they understand what your need is? Does that make sense? And he'll say, yeah, no, that makes sense.
That makes sense.
That makes sense.
All right, go ahead, tell me. I'm curious. What do you think my step number 6 is?
I feel like it's going to be the 2-step. No, the 2-step song. It's not? Okay.
Good try, though. Good try.
All right.
Step number 6, specific to interracial couples, marriage, right? What you would do is you would go out for ice cream and you would specifically buy the chocolate vanilla swirl.
Okay. Oh, no. All right. Okay. All right. That it somehow felt malicious. I know it was a joke, but that felt a little bit malicious.
It cements it together like poetry.
Right. Okay. All right. So that's the first part. That's the first dimension, right? Where we're addressing the sister's question directly.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to intercultural or interracial marriages, in general, speaking to people who are in the talking stage and who are, open to marrying somebody of a different culture.
Yeah.
What would be some of the challenges that they should, or what are the pros and cons? Like, what are the unique challenges in this situation that they need to prepare themselves for?
Probably just ask the person that you're talking to, like, hey, what type of jokes are inappropriate?
Oh, no.
Like, what type of jokes do you not want me to say?
Yes, the answer is yes.
Oh, really? Oh, that? Oh, I would have never thought it.
Yes, all of the jokes.
Yeah, but like, okay, so at what point is too far?
Okay, that's not
what line should I not cross? Like, for example, do I have the pass?
No passes. This whole questioning is making me very uncomfortable. But the answer is no jokes. I know you're joking, but even to joke about it is going too far. But
well, I'm just answering the question.
That's fair.
I'm just answering the question.
That's fair. Usually when clients, when we are in coaching, right, and we're trying to take down their preferences, and this is a common question of, I'm open to multiple different races. Is that a good idea or a bad idea? And I say, of course, it can be a good idea.
Yeah, of course it's a good idea.
It's not really a limitation that exists in our religion. Yeah. But it's also important not to be naive about the challenges that might be involved. Mm-hmm. So when it is in the talking stage, one of the most common challenges is sometimes parents, right? An individual's parents are going to have difficulty with accepting that their son or daughter might be marrying outside their culture or outside their race. So if you are out and about and you meet somebody who is from a different culture, understand that that might be a challenge. Either your parents or their parents might create some obstacles there. Yeah. So that might be, and there's ways to navigate parental discord when the issues that the parent has are things that are really outside Islam.
Yeah.
Right. So many of the times the issues that our parents have, the obstacles that they will start to put up in their son or daughter's potential marriage are valid. Right? They can see something the other person's character may be, or they can see a potential issue that you might have later on in your marriage that you can't. That's many of their concerns are valid. However, sometimes it'll simply be, I want you to marry somebody who is from this culture, who is from specifically this tribe, from specifically this clan, and it can get very specific, right? Mm-hmm. And you may or may not want to do that. You might have found somebody who's outside that, and you're going to have to now navigate the situation of speaking to your parents or the other person speaking to their parents in order to try to smooth that over. Yeah. So that's a whole topic for another episode, right? Mm-hmm. But just to understand that might be something that you run into during the talking stage. In your marriage, when you're married to somebody who is a different cultural background, what are some, first of all, when you were looking for somebody, were you open to people of other cultural backgrounds? Yeah,
for me, culture or skin color didn't matter.
Okay. And
as long as they were a Muslim.
That's fair. That's exactly what our religion dictates. I was also open to people of other cultural backgrounds, but it made sense just to prioritize somebody who's the same background as me, specifically because I wanted to avoid the challenges.
Smith, Bel Air.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yes, it's a long inside joke, but I was trying to avoid the challenges that we're about to mention now.
Yeah, like you guys don't mesh. You don't have anything to talk about, I guess.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, definitely. That can be true for regardless of a person's cultural background. That's more personality, right? Like I've seen couples get together and they don't share a language. Yeah. And but
those are the best couples. Those are the ones that last the longest
because no one's talking.
Because no one's talking to each other.
I got you. But they find ways to communicate. They're, especially with today, there's so much technology. They work really hard. They work extra hard to communicate, and actually that makes them even. They do a better job of conflict resolution than people who share the same language later on, which is weird. It was unexpected, but so any cultural background that you're open to, as long as the person is Muslim, is okay within our religion. Now, what are the challenges that you might come across in your marriage? The first challenge is if you got married and one or both sets of parents had an issue with it, there might be an issue with in-laws, right? Because that issue might carry over. Yeah. So you're going to might have to do more work, right? Depending on the specific context of the situation, you might have to do more work to try to create interfamily harmony, especially because you're going to want to be able to give your children grandparents. Yeah. One or both sets of grandparents. Yeah. So that's the first issue that people might run into. Assuming that doesn't happen. Other issues is that you're going to just when you marry your spouse, right? They are a whole individual, and their specific culture is just one aspect of who they are. Yeah. And based on everything about them, you respect all the aspects about them, right? Does that make sense? Yeah. So you respect their family because it's their family. You respect their chosen field of work because it's their chosen field of work. You respect their hobbies, even if you're not into those hobbies. You make efforts because it's their hobbies. In that same way, what's really important is that you're going to have to and most people respect other people's cultures inherently, but you're going to have to make space for that aspect of your spouse's culture into your world. So if they eat a different food, you're going to make you're going to make efforts bilaterally. So from their end and your end to try to enjoy each other's different foods, enjoy each other's different clothings. One year we wear clothing from this culture, the other year we wear clothing from this culture.
Yeah.
And when you have children, that becomes even more important because you want to endow both cultures with your children. I think that the knowledge of who they are is an aspect of generational wealth.
Yeah.
Real generational wealth is having a strong sense of identity. So you want to gift your children with that sense of identity from both people as much as you can. And for somebody like me who probably doesn't know our language as well as I do, as well as I should, definitely, and I'm missing so much information about cultural to-dos and not to-dos.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of that is smoothed over simply because you are the same cultural background as me. So any children that we'd have, inshallah, you would cover for that. Does that make sense? But when you are the only one representing your culture, you might have to do a little bit more work in order to, like, if I had married somebody who was not Somali, then I would have to really go back and tap into the Somali, go back and relearn so that I could give our children that
the best cultural education that you can.
Exactly.
And if the children are lucky, they can come out of this having learned 2 or 3 languages.
Yeah, I've seen that. And it's always very beautiful. Tabarakallah. Very smart.
They call them polyglots.
Polyglots?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's an actual word.
No, it is.
Pretty impressive.
Yeah, most of the people who listen to the podcast are polyglots.
Yeah, but it was not their choice.
No, it's not, simply because we're speaking English, and tabarakallah, like, if people are listening from all over the world, shout out Kenya, shout out India, shout out Bangladesh, South America,
Truth be told, I don't think knowing 2 languages should qualify you as a polyglot.
It does in my book.
I don't think it should. I think you gotta be 3. No, this is just personal opinion. I think it's gotta be 3 or more.
You're probably right. Usually when it's poly, it's 3 or more.
No, I think. Look, let me be honest with you.
Yeah.
Polyglot is more than 1 language, right?
I think it's whenever it's poly, then it starts to be 3 or more.
Bilingual is 2 languages.
Yes.
More than 2 probably is polyglot.
Yeah. Yeah, we're just going to make it up as we go. I think you're right. It sounds right. It sounds right.
Let's regress.
Let's regress? Okay.
Yeah.
Or progress. So that is one of the challenges with having to really instill that sense of culture in your children, depending on what it is that you and your spouse want, but that might be an aspect. But other than that, it tends to be okay. Things tend to proceed as they would with any other marriage. I just got distracted because he said, let's progress. Progress to move forward. Yes.
What does that make Congress?
That's true. Where you sit down and you talk to each other. I think that's what that is.
No.
I mean, it's supposed to be like that.
I think their job is to have us move backwards.
Apparently, yeah.
Yeah.
We're just gonna leave that where it is. But so those tend to be the major issues that I see in my practice, in coaching practice. And beyond that, the issues that come up in interracial marriages are the same as the issues that come up with every other marriage, right? But the more unique challenges are going to be related to learning to make space for one another's culture, right? So especially if it's really your partner, their cultural background is really important to them, then you're to intentionally make space for that. It might be a way that you show them that you appreciate them and that you love them, and vice versa. For them, for you. And the considerations when it comes to raising your children of really trying to endow the gift of both cultures. But as well as the challenges of the in-laws, if that exists. Most of the clients that I have who are married to come see me, who are interracial, most of their concerns are with regarding the in-laws, right? So that's why I was to mention that at the top of the podcast. From time to time, you'll see concerns with that this young lady has, where she feels like, for one reason or another, her cultural background is not being respected, or her race in this case is not being respected, which tends to point to other red flags. But assuming that is the only issue that's there. That's why we're talking about making space for respecting your spouse's cultural background.
Yeah.
But I think that's it.
Yeah, I guess it is.
Yeah.
And why can't I be biracial?
Why?
Yeah.
Oh, I think that ship has sailed, my dear. Would you want to be biracial?
I mean, like, that's like extra accolades, right?
It really is. Yeah. More. I think you are who you are. Yeah, I think you are who you are, and alhamdulillah.
No, like, being biracial means that there's more of me.
No, that's not what that means at all.
What do you mean? Like, that means I have 100% Somali, and then 100% of something else, right? That just means that I'm 200% me.
No, that's true. But I remember there's somebody said it this way, that if you wanted to be, you can be, that you are 50% Somali and the other 50% is also Somali.
That's very profound.
All right, I think
that means that, theoretically speaking, I could code switch anytime I want.
Okay, all right. Hopefully we were able to make our point, inshallah, and offend nobody. If anyone is offended,
you're all right, mate.
Okay, no. If anyone is offended, please, we apologize deeply, inshallah. That was never our intention. I haven't
apologized.
Okay, I apologize on my behalf. Do you want me on your behalf as well?
All right, fine. I'll apologize.
Okay, we apologize because that's absolutely not our intention. This is going to be a difficult... The whole question is about not making jokes. And unfortunately, all we do is make jokes. So that's what I do.
That's not what you do.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I can't stop it. I'm a funny guy.
You're the funniest guy.
Not the funniest guy. No way.
As far as I'm concerned, the funniest guy. Okay, so Jazakallah khair if you made it this far. We really appreciate you. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please subscribe. It really actually does help us out. We see more and more people from more and more countries are able to find the podcast simply because when we have a higher subscriber count, the algorithm pushes it forward. Also, tell us what you think. How would you help the sister? What would your advice to the sister be who was in this situation? I think that's most of the things. And finally, if you are a Muslim woman who is looking for a spouse on the dating apps and is just very exhausted by that jungle, and you would like some help to be able to navigate that, I offer a webinar that is still free until the end of this month, inshallah. So you can find the link to that on the About section of our YouTube, and you can also find it in the description if you're listening on any other podcast platform. It's called Dating App Strategies That Actually Work. I think that is all the in-house things. Are there anything
Sounded
else?
a bit British there, didn't you?
Did I? Okay.
Well, I think that is all of them.
We should go before you do more accents.
I will continue this.
Okay. So Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you. And Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.